Hey, remember me? It's Nova. This is episode 9 of Topless Talks with Nova. So I know that I have missed 2 episodes. I have an explanation. I can explain, okay? A bitch has been living her life, okay? I've been missing you guys so much, though. Like, you have no idea how much I miss you guys. It feels good to be back in the podcast game, in front of a camera again, planning out episodes, thinking about pondering shit, like, it feels good to be back in the fucking game. I hope to stay. But this is episode 9, and I'm really excited because it's a really, really needed episode. Really needed. But first, I need to catch you guys up. It has been a crazy 3 weeks. It's been 3 weeks since I've been in this chair without a shirt on, recording this for you. It's been 3 whole weeks. And I'm so sorry. But, so the week before last week, I went to a concert. I was in Detroit, and I saw Blink-182. And they were also with Pierce the Veil and a UK band called Hot Milk, which I love them now. The lead singer is a woman, and she's so cool. I fell in love with her. So that's what I was doing. I pretty much stayed in Detroit, Toledo. I was staying in Toledo, but I was staying in the area pretty much for like most of the week. So I didn't post a podcast that week. And then the week after that, I was sick as a dog. I was so sick. I think it was just the flu, but I like the Tuesday that I usually record them last week, I was nowhere near capable of recording. So it was the farthest thing from my mind, and now we're here. So I hope you guys can forgive me. I hope you guys still love me, and yeah. So, I'm slowly coming back to working and streaming. I have gotten back into Twitch streaming. I've streamed twice since coming back. This is my first podcast. I have not gotten back to work, at least not to the degree in which I usually am. I'm just, slowly easing back into it, But what I have been doing a lot of lately is crocheting. I have been crocheting the fuck out of some things, okay? So first thing I did was I made a mandala. I crocheted a mandala for my friend for her birthday. And I was honestly really proud of that piece. Like, probably one of the nicest things I've ever done. And so since then, I have been crocheting another mandala, but with thread instead of yarn, which is much, much thinner. So it's definitely been a challenge, and it's going to be much smaller, but it's going to look more delicate, more intricate, more detailed. So I'm really excited. I'm probably about halfway done with it. So also, I started a Grafgan is what they call it, which is basically like a blanket with a picture on it. And so they have like apps where you can plug in a picture and it tells you like each pixel is a stitch or a square, however you are doing it. I'm doing it by squares, which is 3 stitches per square. And it's like a spooky theme. It's for Halloween. I'm hopefully going to get it done by Halloween, but I didn't realize how big it was going to be. I'm probably like a quarter of the way done. And I did the math, and I think that it's going to be like 12 feet by 12 feet. It's a perfect square. I think it's going to be 12 by 12, which I wasn't really planning for that, but hey, you can never have too many massive fucking blankets, can you? So yeah, that's pretty much what I've been up to the last 2 weeks. I've really been taking it easy, not taking life too seriously, It's been nice. It's been really nice. Well, minus the sickness and, all that shit. But it's been nice to reset. And I feel like I am ready to get back in the fucking game. Which brings me to the topic of our episode today. Long awaited, much needed, is the second episode in my series, How to Interact with People in the Sex Industry. And today is going to be camgirls. How to interact with camgirls. I'm going to do do's and don'ts, how to have an interaction from start to finish, and, things like that. Because I think a lot of people need help with how to interact with women online, or men, of course, while also keeping the fantasy in check and their expectations realistic. So, first things first is when you see a girl on the site that catches your eye, you need to read her profile, whether it's on OnlyFans or StreamMate, which is the site that I'm on, or literally any site that you find this person on. Read the profile, because 9 times out of 10, they will tell you exactly what they do in a show, what they're willing to do, what they don't do, what they're not willing to do in a show, and, literally any other information that you need to know about them. You would be, or maybe you wouldn't be, but you'd be surprised how many guys message me while I'm working, while I'm live streaming, and asking me questions that are very clearly in my bio. And I understand, wanting to interact with me. I get that. But interact with me in a way that doesn't waste my time, because I can spend that time interacting with people who actually take the time to read my bio. I don't need to be answering questions that can easily be found simply by scrolling down 2 inches. So yeah, definitely read the bio. Also, when you talk to this cam girl or OnlyFans girl, always be respectful. Keep in mind that this is a business for her. And while yes, and I'm speaking for myself here, while yes, I love getting to know people, and I love connecting with people, and I love chatting with people, and, just forming connections with people. I love that. But you have to remember that this is my business, and I am selling you a fantasy. The fantasy of having sex with me or being with me, and you need to keep your expectations realistic in the sense of keeping fantasy and reality separate, making sure that you are consistently drawing that line between what's real and what's the fantasy. Because, and it's happened more ever since I started this podcast, and ever since I started showing up more genuinely online, is people will say, subscribe to my OnlyFans, and they immediately assume that I want to be with them, or that I would be okay with meeting them in person. And it's like, first of all, I don't know you. Second of all, you don't know me. I could be a serial killer. Third of all, it's against the rules of 99% of sites, if not all. It is against the rules to do that, to even talk about it, which is another thing that I'll hit on. But so you have to try really, 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 really hard to just remember that this is their business. And when you put them in a position to where you get reality and fantasy mixed up and they start jumbling up, you put them in an awkward position of having to reject you and or blocking you and like really enforcing that boundary with you, which they don't want to do all the time, you know? Like me, I don't want to have to constantly remind you the nature of this relationship, you know? I would love to just like be able to let loose and have fun with you. But if you're constantly like, oh, I want to meet, I want to hang out, like, let's have sex in person, you know, like constantly pushing that, then I lose my patience. And I know that a lot of other girls do as well, because I don't want to constantly have to remind you what I am and why you're here, you know? And if the reason that you're here is to find a girlfriend, then maybe you're doing that wrong. I hate to say it, but OnlyFans and StreamMate and all of those sites, it's not a dating site. I know that's like shocking to some people, absolutely shocking, but we can get kicked off the site for even talking about it. So, love ya. Anyway, so something that you need to do as the person seeking out the attention of these types of women is, in the very beginning, you need to remember what your boundaries are, whether that be emotional boundaries or financial boundaries or whatever that may be. You need to establish those right away, if not before you even seek these women out, because you know your boundaries matter too. And if you know in your heart that if you spend a certain amount of money and it's going to put you in a difficult financial position, then maybe you shouldn't do that. You know, maybe you should put a limit on yourself. Same with like emotional boundaries, is if you think it's too personal, or if you catch feelings if, you know, I call you baby, or if you turn your camera on so that I can see you, certain things like that. If you know for yourself that maybe that's like too intimate for you and you shouldn't do that, or you will catch feelings, then maybe you should implement that for yourself. Because, and I'm circling back to the respecting the nature of the relationship, because it's important to respect the nature of the relationship. It's important to understand that this is not your girlfriend. You know, you guys can be friends. You guys can be really good friends. You know, I see a lot of my regulars as some of my closest friends. I care about a lot of them very, very deeply. But that doesn't change the nature of the relationship. It doesn't change the fact that you sought me out on this site. And so, because otherwise we wouldn't have met, you know? Otherwise, we wouldn't be interacting. And so just like you need to be enforcing your boundaries with like financial stuff and emotional stuff, you also need to accept their boundaries. You need to accept like the level of connection that they're willing to give you, whether that be messaging all day or not messaging all day, or calling each other baby, or, you know, just keeping it platonic between you guys. Whatever that may be, every, you know, client, camgirl, or friendship relationship function differently. So like whatever works for you guys. But whatever that is, you need to respect that. You need to respect those boundaries and don't push those boundaries, because like I said before, that puts me and us in a weird position to where I'm like, I don't know, maybe he can't handle this kind of social relationship with me, and maybe this is going to be dangerous farther down the line, because not only can those kinds of mindsets be harmful for both of us, but it can be dangerous, because stalkers and all of that shit, So I have to be careful with the level of closeness that I allow people to get with me, And people get really mad at that. People get mad that I won't give out my number, that I won't meet in person, that I don't do this or that I don't do that. But, and I'm sorry to say this, I don't give a fuck if it hurts your feelings. I don't give a fuck, because at the end of the day, I'm going to do what I'm comfortable with. And if that rubs you the wrong way, then I will gladly show you the door. And this is actually something that happened with a very recent client that I had to block and tell him to never talk to me again, because we had gotten to the point where we were talking and we were getting close, and I was sharing things about my life with him, and he was one of the people that had a hard time separating fantasy with reality. He insisted that I be flown out. He insisted this, and he would get upset when I wouldn't message him, or if I'm busy in my personal life and I don't log on to OnlyFans for over a day. He would say, oh, well, I'm going to go find someone who actually loves me. I could literally write a novel on how toxic and messed up that is, to put me in the situation of finding me in my business and then holding me to a crazy standard and not accepting any less. So with me sharing my life with him and opening up with him, he turned around and said that it was my trauma that made it so I don't want to get close to him. That also puts me in a shitty position, because I love sharing things with you guys. I want to be able to share my life with you. But if you guys are to turn it around and use it against me, that makes me not want to share it with you guys, So needless to say, I immediately told him that's unacceptable. That's me enforcing my boundary, because you're not allowed to blame my past for your behavior, And so that moral of the story is, you need to be realistic, If you want a girlfriend, you need to go out in the real world and find a girlfriend, You're not going to find a girlfriend on a cam site or through OnlyFans. And of course, there are stories of people who do actually find these kinds of relationships through campsites, but those are so rare. That is not something that you can depend on. And I know that I like this whole episode of kind of being harsh. I'm kind of being a little mean and I'm pointing fingers, but it's only because I love you guys and I don't want to stop showing up the way that I've been showing up. But I'm also struggling. I need to find the middle ground of showing up the way I want to show up, being myself, but also not revealing too much so that people don't really get the wrong idea. I don't know. I'm struggling with it, guys. Some people take it as an insult when I tell them that I'm not comfortable doing certain things, like meeting them in person. And I guess what it comes down to is that they don't respect the nature of the relationship, or they don't respect me, And that's kind of something that I've been coming to terms with over the last few weeks, is people say they respect you. They respect you at the level at which they are capable of, but it's all in a selfish way. So, and it sucks, but that's the industry for you. And those of you that do respect me and respect our relationship, I love you so dearly. those of you that I don't have to remind every 5 minutes, and that I don't have to get mean with sometimes, those of you who just get it, man, I cannot explain to you how much I appreciate you, because you get it, you know? Those of you who get it, and who don't, never fucking will, you know? And so when I say all of this, I don't want to scare you away from talking to camgirls, because a lot of us are so nice. Most of us are really nice and really fun. And a lot of us are really sexy and hot as hell and really fun to get to know. We're really cool people. So I don't want to scare you away from talking to them altogether, because it's not always difficult. It's only difficult if you make it difficult. It's only difficult if your expectations are unrealistic. You need to keep your expectations in check from the very, very, very start. That's how you are going to have a good friendship and or relationship with this person. And that includes knowing your own boundaries, respecting them, knowing her boundaries and respecting them, and knowing the difference between fantasy and reality. And I know some people just do a really good job of selling the fantasy, and I've been told that I do that. I've been told that I do a really good job of selling that fantasy, because a lot of people get confused of whether or not it is a fantasy or reality. But that's not a fault of mine. That just means that I'm really good at what I do. And that's why I love showing up so genuinely, because it makes it easier for me to do my job. It makes it so much easier for me to be able to do the things that I do, because I'm actually being me, you know? But even though you are getting to know the real me, that doesn't mean that I want to be with you or that I want to meet you. And that's not to say that there's no camgirls out there that will meet up with you. But just know that, first of all, it is against the rules of their site. And it doesn't matter if they say it is or not. It's against the rules of their site. Period, point blank. 100% chance of it being against the rules of their site. So you asking her on the public forum can get her banned. So if you care about, her at all, don't ask, because she can get kicked off. Also, so yeah, there are women that will do it, but you can't assume that every girl is. You can't go into the interaction assuming that it will end in a meetup, because not every girl's like that. I'm not like that. I don't do meetups. I don't judge people who do, because whatever floats your boat, get your bag, sis. But that is beyond my boundaries. And therefore, everyone needs to respect that. Whether you want to or not, you're going to respect that. So anyway, let's go into step-by-step how to interact with a camgirl. You see them on the site. You read their bio. And if you like what's in the bio, you can start a conversation with her. If it's from a live feed, like on my site StreamMate, you can type and she'll talk back to you. That doesn't necessarily mean lurking in the room and flooding her chat, because like I said, this is a business and she does have work to do. She is on the clock right now. Let her acknowledge your existence and ask for a show. 9 times out of 10 she'll say yes. And then in the private show, that's when you can get to know her, and if it's like a token based site, I wouldn't suggest trying to get to know them at all unless there is a feature for a private show, because in a token based site, these girls have to focus on the audience, and they cannot focus on one singular person at a time, because then they would be ignoring everyone else, you know? So I'm speaking strictly on private-based sites where you can take them to private and have one-on-one time with them. So I wouldn't suggest flooding the chat and lurking in the room, spending no money. You know, I would definitely suggest either tipping every so often or taking them to a show and getting to know them. So by doing so, you probably have already checked their bio and you know what their boundaries are, what they do and they don't do sexually. Now that you're in the show, you can, you know, I've had guys either start at first, like, kind of having a little small talk and then being like, oh, you know, like, I'm horny, blah, blah, blah. Or you can just get straight into it if you fucking want to. Or you can just get straight into it if you want to. Depending on if you already have a rapport with the scam girl or whatever, you know, like what her boundaries are, you can kind of tell her what to do, or you can suggest things, of course. This is, of course, fully dependent on the nature of the show, you know. But always be respectful unless there is a verbal agreement that she's okay with you, like, verbally disrespecting her. Because that's a thing, and that's fine. I'm not here to kink shame, but there needs to be an agreement beforehand. Just because you're paying her does not give you the right to disrespect her without her consent. Also, respect her boundaries. If she says she doesn't like to do something, for example, if she doesn't like to do anal, it's okay to ask for clarification, or, you know, if you don't understand or whatever. But don't push your luck, because this is her body. She's giving you permission to experience her body, and you have to allow her to do so in a way that she's comfortable with. And wouldn't you want her to be comfortable? You know? I don't know. I guess some guys don't really give a fuck, but this is me telling you that you should give a fuck. Okay? Is that all right? So, after the session, you know, after you come, what I suggest is saying thank you. You know, don't just immediately fucking leave, because it's fine, but it's annoying. You know, it's kind of like rude. Say thank you before you leave the private, and send a fucking tip. Maybe leave a review if, like, you enjoyed your time. Just be respectful. Treat it like you would if you actually had sex with a woman. You know, you wouldn't just immediately leave the house. You would thank her, whatever, have fun with her, enjoy her presence. You don't have to, you know, hang out for an hour, but, you know, just, hey, thank you so much. I hope you have a good day. See you next time. I love that. I love when guys, after we're done with our session, they're like, hey, I missed you. I appreciate the time. Like, thanks for hanging out with me. I'll see you next time. And I'm like, love you. Bye. It feels so good, like, when someone actually gives a fuck. Because you wouldn't imagine the amount of guys that don't do that and just don't give a shit. And they just immediately come into the private, bossing me around, being rude, being bossy, not liking my boundaries. I cannot block someone faster than someone who tries to fight me in, like, what I do and don't do. You know? I could not block someone faster. And a lot of times when you block someone, it refunds them. And at that point, I don't give a shit. Take your money back. Because I'm not going to sacrifice my comfort and my boundaries for the few fucking dollars that you're giving me, you know? And that's on self-respect, baby. That's on self-advocacy, okay? So, even in between shows, if maybe the cam girl doesn't work as often as you'd like, don't blow her shit up. Even if it's just like on OnlyFans, there's no need to send over 10 messages. There's no need to send over 5 messages. There's no need to send over 3 messages. If I'm busy If they're busy, they're not going to get to it just then. If they're free, they might get to it, you know? OnlyFans especially is kind of like a secondary thing for me. I keep it really cheap. You know, I keep it like $11 a month because I don't always stay on top of it. And so I think that, you know, with the amount of times that with the amount that I'm posting and all the shit, I think that that's more than fair. Even with me going MIA sometimes and not replying to messages, you know? And this is kind of plays into like your own personal life with your friendships as well, is like you cannot be so crazy about people replying to you as like not quickly enough. You cannot be so pushy about people replying to you quicker, because maybe they're just overwhelmed. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they are having a family emergency. Like, you have no idea what's going on in their lives. And if I log back on and I see all these hateful messages about how I haven't replied, I'm going to read them and just I'm going to be like, okay, you go ahead and have that, because you're making up all that drama for yourself, you know? Like, while I love you guys and I love having all of these friends and like these connections, I'm not gonna let it affect me that way, that deeply. When you like get upset, it's only hurting you, babe. Like, you're only hurting yourself. So try to detach just a little bit and have a little empathy. Maybe they're busy. Maybe they're having a hard day. Maybe they don't have internet right now. Maybe there's a fucking tornado in their area. You know, maybe their dog died. You never know. So just have a little bit of grace for people, you know? And therefore, have a little grace for me. Please? Oh my gosh. So, you may be listening to this episode right now and you're just like, oh my God, like, she's being so mean right now. She's being so harsh. She's talking directly to me. And if it seems like that's the case, I'm sorry. But these are things that need to be said and that I have been building up for quite some time now. For the last 11 weeks, honestly, if not longer. But like, that doesn't change the fact that I love my job and I love you guys and I love talking with you guys and I love getting to know you and I love all of the connections that I make. I'm only saying that sometimes a lot more than I'm willing and able to give is required of me. And while I don't let it affect my personal life, I see that it's affecting some of you. And I guess I just want to clear it up and say that just because I don't want to meet you, just because I don't want to have sex with you, does not mean that I don't like you. Okay? I love you, actually. I thoroughly enjoy all of the time that I spend with every single one of you guys, you know? But that does not mean that I'm going to compromise myself or my safety or my boundaries. And if that's something that you can get on board with, then fuck yeah, I'm so glad you're here. If that's something that you're not cool with, you're welcome to find someone else. You're welcome to find another Nova, which I don't think that's really possible, but anyway, I love you guys, okay? That's the whole gist of it. I love ya. So, on to the cum counter. It's been 3 weeks since I last announced my cum counter. Isn't that crazy? 3 weeks! But, first, sex fact of the week is sea slugs detach and regrow their penis after every single mating session. So you could say that they're fucking with a new dick every time. Detaches and regrows after every sex section. I think that's pretty dope. I wonder if it can change its size. Does it get bigger? Does it get smaller? Can it get bigger? I guess I know nothing about sea slugs, but quite thought-provoking, isn't it? Anyway, so I haven't been counting to the dot. I have not been tallying the way that I usually do, but I can tell you that I've been so fucking horny. Even when I was sick, I was so fucking horny. I swear I've been masturbating at least 3 times a day. So I would guess that it's at least in the 60s since the last time for the last 3 weeks. At least in the 60s. What are your guys' at? Since the last time we spoke, what's your number at? Tell me. Is it in the 60s? Did you beat me? Or did I beat you? I know I gave you guys some tough love today, but I think that we're closer because of it. We've gotten closer now, okay? And I think that going forward, we can have a really good relationship, okay? It just really depends on you and your own mindset. And while I understand if, you can't change your mindset, I hope you do. I hope you can. Not that every single one of you needs to, but those of you who do need an adjustment, I really hope that you're able to, because I don't want to have to cut you out. Because that's the eventual, solution. If it continues, I eventually will have to cut you out. And I don't want to do that because I love you guys, So I know, again, I was harsh this episode, but just know it's all out of love, okay? Just know it's out of love, okay? We promise to stay out of trouble this week. Promise? All right, guys. Well, I'll see you next week. Be good.